Já imaginou como será a cidade onde vive no futuro? Que papel terão a tecnologia e a inovação na melhoria da vida urbana? Ao celebrar 20 anos de atividade, a Porto Digital não quis apenas revisitar o passado. Quis, acima de tudo, lançar um olhar ousado sobre o que está por vir. Nesta série de podcasts, convidamos especialistas nacionais e estrangeiros a refletir sobre os grandes desafios do nosso tempo e sobre o papel transformador que entidades como a Porto Digital podem assumir no desenho das cidades do futuro. Num conjunto de conversas francas e inspiradoras, exploramos ideias, antecipamos tendências e, sobretudo, alimentamos a esperança num amanhã melhor. Junte-se a nós. Vamos celebrar o futuro. Bem-vindos ao podcast Let's Celebrate the Future. Ao meu lado, comigo, hoje, tenho o Martin Brynskov. O Martin é um investigador sénior da Universidade Técnica da Dinamarca, na qual lidera o DTU Smart Communities Center. É também fundador e diretor na Open and Agile Smart Cities. É uma rede global de cidades baseada em Bruxelas que procura ser uma voz das necessidades dos cidadãos e das respectivas comunidades perante os reguladores e as Big Tech, as grandes tecnológicas. Martin, por causa nestas andanças, lidera um conjunto de projetos de investigação nas áreas da robótica, da inteligência artificial, dos espaços de dados, que entretanto se tornaram tão importantes, da inovação e inclusão social, etc. We'll do this interview in English. Martin.
Thank you.
Martin is Danish, I'm Portuguese. Martin, you are the director of the Smart Community Center at DTU. This is a simple question, but it has this tricky part on it. Is there a substantial reason for it focusing on communities rather than in cities, at least in the name of it?
So, actually, I am no longer with the technical university,
Okay.
but there is certainly a reason to focus on communities, except not for cities. So, we all live in communities. We do not all live in cities. So, communities is the more inclusive term. It's the more relevant term because it's wherever someone lives together. Actually, I find cities not a very practical term. It's very hard to define. In some countries, a city is a very particular thing. You need to have a city incorporation letter. Sometimes it just means municipality. So I think community is at the core of what we talk about. So we prefer addressing communities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But can you tell us a little bit more about the projects you were doing there, and even some of the projects you are working out right now?
Yes. So I'm an academic. I've been with universities all my life. I managed a portfolio of 90 million euros. And I have, over the past decade, been leading some of the very large-scale pilots on these emerging technologies. So the Internet of Things, how do we co-create services so that they don't just fall from the sky and they are there. So that has very often been my role, to not just come up with good ideas, but also validate them in practice and then feed that back into policy, into standardization, and to new research. So you could say I work between the basic research, which I also do, and the market, the community.
Yeah.
How do we make the jump from good ideas to something that creates good conditions for living together in a broad sense? And that doesn't happen automatically. Many ideas are really bad. Also, you learn that something that works in one place doesn't work in another. And we have to recognize that. And in that sense, technology needs to be reintroduced. We call it virtualization taking place. or finding ground. And I mean this very physically. The technology is somewhere, and also somewhere where we have to live with it. So the community is a socio-technical mesh. And that needs a lot of experimentation to find the right balances and how we can have some things in common, but we can have differences. Also, why do we have political leadership locally to take decisions? Otherwise, we could just have the civil servants.
Yeah.
And we could
And
just
some
as citizens.
machine
Exactly.
with an algorithm working it out.
Yes, it would just be a solution or an optimization. But that's not what communities
Communities are a political space, man. We have to take decisions.
We have to. So community, of course, means that we put our minds together.
Yeah.
And the technologies have to allow for that to happen. Otherwise, they fail to support communities.
You have several projects. I know that you were somewhat involved. I don't know how you are now relating to it with community cities, with Porto. Porto is also in community cities. Could you tell us a little bit more about that project and what you are trying to achieve with it?
Yes, and if you allow me, I will start with the history.
Okay.
So one of the first large-scale co-creation pilots was to create experimentation, co-creation as a service. So how does a city or community provide not just one-off experiments, but in a systematic way, so it's becoming natural to do. We did this in a project called Organicity.
Organicity, yeah.
And that was also with the involvement of Porto. And there we learned that we need to have some minimal common ground. So we call this the minimal interoperability mechanisms. So there we learned what were the conditions for experimenting in a community. After that, we wanted to see, okay, so if we come up with good ideas and they need to spread out, what do we do? And this exercise we called synchronicity. What if we do many things of the same in different places? So that was a fairly large, 20 million euro large-scale pilot on this. And then the next question that was arising is, okay, so when we spread the successful uses of technology, who is not served? Who lives? Yes. Who are the marginalized parts of the community? Because community also means together. So who are on the fringes? So what community does is that it looks at these new technologies from a true community perspective, but focusing on the margins. So the whole point about community is to see when we introduce new technologies, AI, first of all, but also all kinds of new technologies, the metaverse and so on. What can we learn when we work with the community on fair terms? So that's what community is about. It's 100 pilots.
Smaller.
Small, but yes. That's the point, because they have to be relevant for people who are not
already in a state of being put in practice, not to be developed with. That would need more money.
Yes. So there is ideas that have already been implemented and become part of the service to the citizens. But there's also ideas that have been tried out and then put away because that was not a good idea, which is the whole point of experimentation. That's to find out what does not work.
Not to be afraid of failure.
Yes.
But always noticing that a failure is a way to change the path.
And to learn. But one of the very big problems, if I may, by working on that is exactly, but if you go and work with people, I have had many students and groups going out with a true intention to help, to be helpful, and they come to a community and said, oh, we want to help and do this, that, and the response would be, go away. We are tired. We don't want to help you actually, because you just come here to learn and then you forget about us. So one very essential point is to ensure that when you go out, you have something permanent to give, something that stays with the community, because otherwise how can you expect them to give to you one way?
You are right. I was hearing you on a talk at Porto Digital stand here behind us, and we are at Smart City Expo at Barcelona. And at some moment there, you said that no one asks to live in a living lab.
Well, it is of course a provocation,
Yeah,
but it must be by choice. So if the city just agrees, maybe some civil servants or politically, that now we will experiment, what does that mean? Does it mean that we get things that don't work? So the experience is actually, unless you are very specific about what are the conditions, can you opt out?
Yeah, for example, yeah.
Is it a way of delivering poor service, or what is it? As long as it's on transparent and fair terms, then of course a living lab can give something back, especially if you are sure that if it is successful and it creates success, then also over time it keeps paying back
That's the question.
to the original
Yeah.
living lab citizens. And this is very difficult to, it's not difficult to do, but it's difficult for the normal administrations
to
thinking this
involve
way.
People.
But we have to think of communities like early investors. We have to pay back if it's a success. And we have to guarantee them, because they're citizens as well, we have to guarantee them a minimum outcome.
Yeah, at the end, they want better services, to pay less for the water because we manage the water better than before.
But that
and we
might-
don't spare.
Exactly, but that might not be until 10 years.
Okay.
So there has to be some very hard incentive also immediately.
Yeah. The question is also that you were talking about the marginalized, the fringe, these technology improvements and the new services that they allow us to develop. They usually come with a price. How can we assure that they are available to most of our cities, to most of us citizens, even when our daily fight is to make money last till the end of the month and pay the rent, for example.
Well, I would say, first of all, we have to ensure that it's still the local political discussion that at the end of the day decides. But on the local level, you can only decide so much. Then there's the regional or the national level, the global regional level. In Europe, it's a single market, so there are pros and cons of having...
We are daily influenced by what the decisions are, the framework, the legal framework.
But even though these technologies could be localized a lot, vastly the majority of the technologies that we meet, they are centralized and very similar, no matter where in the world you meet them. I think we have to think of technology a little bit more like food. Maybe it's the same basic ingredients, but if you go to Portugal, you get a very, very different smell and taste and tradition around cooking that food than if you come to my home country, Denmark. I'm not saying either is better, but it's part of our communities. It's embedded in how we live and how our history is. And technology can be like that, but today it's not so often. And what we need to do is that we need to recognize the need of local perspectives also on technology, not just food.
That's an interesting point and a beautiful metaphor. I love food. I presume you like
but
it.
But you don't love technology.
I love the use of it. What I can make of it, what all of us can make of it. That's the question. I always imagine myself that I don't need to know everything about it. I would like to know, and we can discuss this, what are the guys that are developing it doing with the data I provide them? That's important, and that's as you know, a huge discussion. And the question is, where is the point when the citizens' rights met the market interest? For me, it's a very important discussion, and you are in that discussion also. For the open and agile cities has something to do with that. No?
Yes. So open and agile smart cities and communities is a network of networks.
Yeah.
So the idea is several things. It's to learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. Openly?
Yes. Yes. So actually, if you look at the logo of OASC, it has 4 letters. The O is 3 rings because you're always in a context. You're always somewhere. We are bottom up. That's the arrow in the A. We want a well-functioning market, so both supply and demand, but we represent the demand side, so the citizens. And we want to work with new ideas that comes from the side. But the point is, in order to recognize all of those 4 things, there are certain terms and conditions for accepting the technology. So it must be open for communities, we say. It must be open for us to do the things we will do and avoid doing the things that we want not to do. We can think of it not so you talk about data and what happens with the data. So data, I don't think it's the new oil. In Europe it's the new soil because it's fertile, new things can come, but also that we have to protect it so that it is not
have to do with the soil.
Voila. And we have to think of it as a common resource, like water, like air, that we have to manage well. So when you ask, how can we get good, I would say, good soil? Well, there are many things we can do, but we have to not just see it as some magic that happens and some people make money of it and we just look at the price. It is also about what is the quality of the technology, like the quality of the air or the water. Of course, what is the price? And we also need to ensure that over time, that is a perspective which is longer than today and tomorrow.
Yeah, we must feed the soil.
We must, but also when we talked here in the discussion with Porto and what has happened in the last 10 years about the urban platforms, the digital platforms. I think that's the right perspective. At least 10 years, or maybe 20, or maybe 50, because unless we see it in this perspective, we are not understanding the challenges of using technology and investing taxpayers' money well in these technologies. And that's what OASC does. It brings the voice of citizens and communities to the big tech and to the big regulators.
In OASC, you have developed a catalog of best practices and solutions. The question is it difficult to navigate and chart the ocean of tools that are being created almost on a daily basis? We are in the place where I presume that everyone is creating something new to offer to cities and communities. It must be difficult to navigate and to choose the right ones to serve the needs we have.
I would say it's impossible.
It's possible.
But
we're trying to help.
We're of course trying to help. Again, this is what the network does, that you learn from each other. Like if you learn of a good restaurant or a good suggestion. But what you can do is that you could say, no matter what the new technology is or the good service and so on, it must have some basic standards that they live up to.
Requirements.
Regarding the way the data is used, regarding the algorithms that are being employed and so on. And I think
Transparency also.
Voila. So in that sense, you can put requirements, and this is what OASC does. So the members, the cities and communities, they agree on some ways to describe. When we buy a platform or a certain system, it must have at least these features. Also, so that we can leave it if we don't need it anymore or use it another brand.
That's with the MIMs.
Exactly. So this idea that, it's really up to the municipalities themselves what they buy, but it's like if you want to buy organic food, or if you want to buy, a car that has a certain emission level, you can put these terms to the market, to the technology vendors, because otherwise it will just be them saying, "Oh, our product is fantastic." Says who? Says we. So
yeah.
Bringing the view of many cities together is actually a very useful thing to do to navigate.
And I presume that it also lets us gain some time. We don't have much time to achieve some of our tough targets. 2015 is right after the corner there. I would like you to talk me a little bit about MIMs, this minimum interoperability. It's a difficult word for me to say in English.
That's why it's called MIMs.
MIMs,
That's
yeah,
easier.
MIMs. Are we managing to get there? To coming to a good portfolio of solutions where we interchangeable for to evolve more quickly and or we're going slowly.
We're going slowly.
Yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, I'm very impatient, but I think we have also.
Secrets is still the in Portugal we have this expression: secrets is the soul of a business.
Okay.
It's still a problem.
Yeah. Well, I think. I think we have made some very, very good steps. So this summer, we now have a global standard for MIMs. And it's valid in 194 countries all over the world. And you can put it in your procurement. So that when you put out a tender and wants to put, it's legal to put in there that we want the service to be MIMs compliant. Okay. But that's, in a way, that's the easy thing. Of course, it's not easy to get all the countries in the world to agree on one thing, but we did that. I think that's an achievement. It's not that often that cities, the local level, they get a say on the global level. This is quite nice. But then it has to be fleshed out so that the market actually can provide. And this takes time. The difference between roads and buildings and water management and then the digital is that we have been managing roads and buildings and water for 8,000-9,000 years.
Mm-hmm. Since we invented the cities and communities and small villages.
And it's the most resilient invention of humans. But we have not had so much experience in managing the digital infrastructure. So we are still learning, and I think that's part of the issue.
Okay. You are also at Net Zero Cities platform, I think, supporting the EU mission on climate neutral cities.
Yes, we're part of that.
How does this recent developments in AI, for example, and data processing can help cities achieve these environmental targets?
Well, it's a sword with two edges because the AI uses a lot of energy, unfortunately. So now we see big data center providers buying either wind farms.
You have a new one
or nuclear
supercomputer in house
in Denmark. Yes, Gefion.
Yeah, I read about it.
So that is one side of the sword. The other is that we can, with these technologies, manage much more decentralized and balanced infrastructure. So we don't have to send a lot of power out in the grid if it's not needed. So we can save a lot of power by just adjusting locally. So this is really where the power of community comes back and is supported by these new technologies. But if you ask again if we are moving fast towards some decentralized energy systems and so on, it takes time because the old ways are very entrenched.
The business as usual wants to keep its
Perhaps.
share of the market. For almost ending, we are almost ending our interview. In what other areas of urban living and urban management do you anticipate that AI will or could be playing a major role?
Again, it's a sword with two edges, because if we don't have a very keen eye on the governance, it will probably exaggerate the inequalities and the edges we talked about before. It will be worse.
Okay.
But it can also be leveraged to support proactively, more efficiently, and so on. We know from planning there is this thing called the rebound effect. Then when something is becoming useful, like hot water, you use more of it. So
like a road. It's
exactly. What if you build another road? What you get? More cars.
More cars.
So
build bike lanes, please. That's my message.
So the question is then, what is the equivalent of building bike lanes in the digital space? And there, I think things like energy communities and a decentralized setup is actually much more resilient.
Smaller scale.
Yes.
Because if one of them fails, the
rest still stand.
Still stands. Okay. Ending this interview, I would like you to imagine the urban ecosystem, a little part of it, in 20 years. 2015 will be almost there. Do we have the means and knowledge to develop the tools we need to tackle the environmental crisis we are facing? And quoting you again before, you were saying that one of the greatest risks we are facing is sometimes going too fast, in some cases, and in other cases, not going fast enough. So that's a problem.
I think we have
synchronization.
Yes. I think our challenges are the old ones. That is, collective action can be difficult, especially if we have to mind both the people, the planet, and the economy, because the local economy is important for any local size. Ask any mayor what is the most important things: jobs and jobs. So, to balance the social, the environmental, and the economic remains the challenge. So, I mean, it's not impossible to chart technically the optimal path to net zero or to equality. We could end poverty today, as you know.
Or at least tomorrow morning we could do
when
it.
The banks open.
When the banks open.
If there were banks all over the world. But so I think we have to be mindful that the technologies do not exaggerate what we see as our challenges. Like I said before, the AI actually using more energy than saving energy.
Yeah. That's true. Thank you, Martin, for this interview, for being celebrating the future with the Porto Digital also. A reflexão sobre o futuro da cidade prossegue com outros convidados. E já sabe, pode encontrar todos os episódios deste podcast no site da Porto Digital e nas habituais plataformas de streaming. Acompanhe-nos. Let's celebrate the future.